Good evening. To the women of this country, if the two presidential contenders, Dr. William Samoei Ruto and His Excellency Raila Odinga, decides to pick women as their respective running mates, or to be specific, if Raila Odinga picks Martha Karua as his running mate, will you vote for one of your own, or all of you will reflect back to the tribal mode? How effective will gender consciousness have an impact in this election vis-a-vis the tribal consciousness? Bold question. Azimio la Umoja panel submitted 3 names to Honorable Raila Odinga. And in order of priority, Martha Karua was coming number 1, Kalonzo Musyoka was coming number 2, and Peter Kenneth is the distant third, 10%. Now, technically, Peter Kenneth is out of it. And this is what you need to realize. And when I analyzed that the choice of running mate had been decided and whatever was being done was to manage expectations, some people thought it was just mere statement. The role of the panel was to make sure that Raila Odinga's running mate was not coming as a bombshell. Indirectly, it is the interview panel that have announced to the country Raila Odinga's running mate. And Azimio la Umoja One Kenya supporters, consciously in their mind, psychologically, the name that will not come as a surprise. So this was to manage expectation and also to relieve bit of the harsh treatment that Raila Odinga might receive, that just walking and going to a press conference and saying, yes, my running mate is XYZ. So the decision had been made. I want us to look at, there are 3 instances that has informed my decision. One is this. When Noah Wekesa-led panel was meeting journalists earlier today, the 12th of May, Enoch Wambua was conspicuously missing. When contacted, he was saying that he was not in that meeting because there was a school from Kitui that were invited in the Senate, and so he wanted to be in the Senate so that he could gel with that school, and it would be wrong if they would come to Senate and fail to see their senator. Very legitimate question. But I want to explain for you that the press briefing lasted less than 10 minutes. So if Enoch Wambua wanted to attend it, he would have attended. The truth of the matter is that maybe the decision that was already made there did not sit well with him. And that is why, technically, he skipped that meeting. Number 2. Immediately, Kalonzo Musyoka finished the interview. He had, in fact, initially I reported a meeting. It was a phone call, conversation with the president, then flew to South Sudan. At this critical time, Kalonzo Musyoka decided to fly out of the country because already he had known. And for your information, he had already prepared the followers by saying that whatever the outcome, he's not going to step out of Azimio, but his only reservation was that Raila Odinga may likely not win the general election. That's a topic for another day, after the statement is made. So, these 2 instances tells you that Kalonzo Musyoka team, kindly, they're technically isolating themselves. Now this is the bombshell. Ida Odinga in Kisumu, today with Sabina Chege and Martha Karua, attending a maendeleo ya wanawake event made a hint to come out and congratulate the two women, Martha Karua and Sabina Chege, for coming out for the running mate position. So I want us to look at that video. Then when we come back, we shall delve more in the second bit of this analysis.
You see these two women? You see these two women? There's also a third woman. There's also a third woman, Madam Charity Ngilu. You see, they came out and they said they want to be deputy president of this nation. Me, I'm praying for them. Any I'll get, I'm happy with.
At this critical time, if you watch that video, if Raila Odinga knows very well that the decision about Raila Odinga's running mate is still lying somewhere, she won't come publicly to show the audience, or rather to give prominence to those two women, even though I understand that was a women event. But let us not lie. Even you in your house, you have your wife. The second most trusted person that you trust in that house is your wife. There is nothing that you can tell me that a decision that Raila has that Raila Odinga do not know. So if Raila has decided on Martha Karua, that is a decision that Raila Odinga have. And so, in that capacity, she was not just as the wife of His Excellency Raila Odinga, but is also in that capacity as a spokesperson, as a helper of Raila Odinga. And so, it is an indication, a hint, that Raila Odinga's running mate is coming from those two women. And Sabina Chege is not in it because she was, according to the rating, her name was not submitted. So, Martha Karua seems to be there. Now, in this video, I want to look at, because I've been following this Maendeleo ya Wanawake events and all some few latest events in what is seen as a wider scheme by the Raila Odinga's campaign team to galvanize the women votes through that lethal Raila Karua ticket. I mentioned, and I want to repeat here, it is not new. If Raila says my running mate is Martha Karua, no one is going to be shocked unless you don't live in this country. What happened, and let me understand, that the Azimio la Umoja have had, I think, a well-coordinated approach of the lobby groups to coalesce around Martha Karua's deputy president post, supporting Martha Karua. It started by Charity Ngilu endorsing Martha Karua in, I think, there is a youth league, of Azimio Women Youth League in Nairobi. That event was attended by Ann Kananu, Esther Passaris, Mama Ida, Charity Ngilu, a host of others. So after that, Wiper also saw some red flag, and they decided that the Women League in Wiper also came out to endorse, to rubbish that. So that was done. The lobby groups, the people living with the disability, they had endorsed Martha Karua. The Daughters of Mountain, Warembo na Baba, that is also another lobby group. Then the Maendeleo ya Wanawake. The event that was happening in Kisumu reminded me of 1 week after Martha Karua joined Raila Odinga's team. She was in Thika, and in that event she was invited by Maendeleo ya Wanawake as a chief guest. And she's been meeting those women, that group, and Maendeleo ya Wanawake is a very powerful lobby group for women in leadership. And they endorsed her to be Raila Odinga's running mate. Now, these lobby groups and bit of these professional bodies, I understand there is also another body for women lawyers and women journalists that are also going to give their statement, not women journalists, I think there is a women lawyer and then women PROs led by that group, and they're also going to add their voice into that. Now, that is the first strategy, and it is typically aimed at trying to galvanize the women in the middle. Let's say at the middle of the pyramid. Those who are down, then the professionals, the teachers, the doctors, the pilots, hao wenye wako katikati. So that is the lobby number one. Number two, I think Martha Karua is sensationally being groomed as a Mount Kenya first female deputy president and the first deputy president. And technically, the Mount Kenya, I think the Gikuyu Kiama, it's some group, I think it's the Kikuyu Council of Elders, also endorsed her. Now, that was a big endorsement because that is the endorsement of the community. And what does that show? That also shows that she is being groomed as the face of Mount Kenya. That is why that Kikuyu Council of Elders also endorsed her. So that was another strategy that was laid in table. Now, if you've also been keen, you'll realize that Martha Karua and Raila Odinga have a common denominator, and that is called political maturity and sanity. So what Martha Karua messaging around Martha Karua, or when she's doing her own messaging, you'll realize that she's selling a clean pair of hands. And if you're keen, she was talking in, I think, Kirinyaga. She was saying, look at me and Raila, we are not tainted. And that card, I have realized that it is one trying to reflect on the nation opinion poll that was done. I analyzed it here. It was one of the indicators, it was one of the parameters that was used to measure the popularity of Raila Odinga, and it worked. If you remember me, because I analyzed here, I cannot forget, 67% of people who were supporting Raila were on his personality, which was on his experience. Now, that experience is what borders the political sanity and the maturity. Then lastly, and my good friend Gideon will tell you this, that Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, the Martha Karua is being brought to galvanize the women constituency through churches and the lobby groups in Mount Kenya. Now, these lobby groups in Mount Kenya is why Sabina Chege is playing, that is the critical role that Sabina Chege is being planted there to do. Because some of these groups are not, some of these groups, like they are the ones for the wamama wakubwa, and then they are the ones for the young. And when you listen to Sabina Chege's rally, when she was speaking at Kasarani, she was talking to the single mothers na wasichana, telling them that sponsor wetu ni baba. You understand? Now, what is going to happen is that when they attend church, there is the men and women caucus. They are going to galvanize around her. Then in Mount Kenya, William Ruto's entry point was these women groups. Now they are also going to use to try to approach that group. As to whether this will work, the question is just simple. And the question I started with, and I want the women to respond. Here, if, and also, please, you can also help us. Are they going to vote one of their own? Or they will still revert back to the tribal mode, or look at the economic model? Even though all of them must be put at the table. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my analysis. I am coming next with Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet meeting.